Good afternoon, and thanks for having us in. A Lincoln County man admits to strangling and killing a young mother. 23-year-old Jackson Phillips reached a plea deal with prosecutors. This morning, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In exchange for that plea, murder charges were dropped. According to newly released court documents, Phillips admits strangling Randy Gerlach on February 21st of 2022 at his parents' house just south of Sioux Falls. He then hid her body in the basement. A family member found her a week later. Phillips is scheduled to be sentenced on June 30th. KELOLAND's Kelly Volk was in the courtroom for today's hearing. We'll hear from Randy's sister and a friend later today on KELOLAND News. Also developing this midday, court papers say an 11-year-old child is in critical condition after being shot by a 10-year-old boy. It happened at a home on the west side of Sioux Falls. Police cannot comment on the case because it involves juveniles, but we were able to obtain an affidavit filed against the alleged shooter's mother. The document says the boy had taken his mother's gun because, quote, no one would be home and he was worried one of his mother's friends would find it. The boy's mother is in the Minnehaha County Jail on an unrelated case. Following the shooting, she is also charged with 2 counts of child abuse and weapons charges because of 2 prior felony convictions involving meth. Minnesota announced a settlement in its lawsuit against Juul Labs and tobacco giant Altria. This is the first of thousands of cases against the e-cigarette maker to reach trial. The terms will be kept confidential until formal papers are publicly filed with the court. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison has said in a statement. After 3 weeks of trial, bringing into the public record the actions that Juul and Altria took that contributed to the youth vaping epidemic, we reached a settlement in the best interests of Minnesotans, Ellison says. Another big story this midday. Officials in Watertown say the water at Lake Kampeska is beginning to recede. They say it crested on Sunday afternoon. Turning now to a first look at our midday forecast with meteorologist Adam Rutt. It's going to be a very spring-like start to our week.
Yeah, what a concept. It's spring.
I know. Well, hey, here we go.
Let's look and feel like spring, why don't we? A beautiful day to get outside if you have the chance to do so. Plenty of sunshine, it's not overly windy, and temperatures, arguably most importantly, are pretty seasonable. To Lake Madison we go. Again, a beautiful afternoon out there. A little cool, but I think we're getting a little nitpicky at the same time. 48, a north wind is 16 miles per hour. That wind will continue to back off a little bit as we head through the day. Meanwhile, downtown, we're looking good too. 53, northwest wind at 11 miles per hour at the airport on the north end of the city. We're sitting in the 50s in many locations, actually. That includes Yankton at 52, along with Mitchell, Pier 51, 52 in Rapid City, 54 in Spearfish, Custer and Pine Ridge. Already starting to show off a little bit today, 61 and 63 respectively. Meanwhile, to the northeast, we are mainly in the 40s. That's still not bad, though, considering what we've had to deal with this month. This is not that bad, and I'm taking that summer preview out of the equation for the time being. Winds are tolerable east river, a bit brisk to the west, but as high pressure builds in more and more today, that wind will back off, and we'll have ourselves a pretty nice start to the work and school week. Not much cloud cover to talk about. Like I said, beautiful blue skies abound, and that will allow the temperature to climb nicely. Either side of 60 in many locations for southeastern KELOLAND. Marshall and Worthington, the exceptions at 51 and 52 respectively. Meanwhile, to the northeast, mainly in the 50s to near 60. Sisseton, the exception at 48. Even Ortonville might be just shy of 50. But no need to worry about that in central and western KELOLAND. 60s to near 70 with a bit of a breeze with plenty of sunshine. We do have some changes to talk about, including a few rumbles of thunder we'll have to watch. Details on that coming up.
Thank you, Adam. New language classes at Annie Sullivan Elementary School are an effort to connect kids with their heritage.
Empower and encourage them to speak their native language so that there will be a good communication between parent and the child at home.
We take you to this Nepali class at this Sioux Falls Elementary School in tonight's Eye on KELOLAND at 10. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell will be back at work in the Capitol today, almost 6 weeks after a fall at a Washington area hotel and undergoing treatment for concussion and fractured rib. The 81-year-old Kentucky Republican has been recovering at home since he was released from a rehabilitation facility in late March. Kevin McCarthy used his 100th day as Speaker of the House to highlight the battle between House Republicans and the White House over the debt ceiling. The battle threatens to have a historic and lasting impact on the U.S. economy. Nicole D'Antonio has details from Capitol Hill.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy traveled to Wall Street to say the future of the U.S. economy hinges on a showdown with President Biden over the debt ceiling.
Addressing the debt requires us to come together, find common ground, and reduce spending.
Congress has until this summer to raise the debt ceiling to pay for bills it has already passed. If it fails to do so, the U.S. could default on its debt for the first time in history.
Okay, so here's our plan. In the coming weeks, the House will vote on a bill to lift the debt ceiling into the next year.
McCarthy says the bill would return spending to 2022 levels and limit federal spending growth to 1% over the next 10 years. Speaker McCarthy has yet to unify House Republicans on which areas of the budget they're willing to cut, and his proposal is not likely to pass in the Democrat-led Senate. President Biden insists Congress raise the debt limit without conditions, pointing out that Republicans voted to do exactly that 3 separate times under former President Trump. The White House issued a statement saying, quote, there is one responsible solution to the debt limit, addressing it promptly without brinksmanship or hostage taking. Christine Lagarde, head of the European Central Bank, says an American default would have a worldwide impact.
This is the largest economy. It's a major leader in economic growth around the world. It cannot let that happen.
Lagarde also believes that Republicans and Democrats will find a solution before it's too late. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Now, Congress last approached default in 2011. At that time, they agreed to a last-minute deal to avoid it. However, even just the risk of default was enough for Standard & Poor's to downgrade the U.S. credit rating, which sent stocks plummeting.